Okay, we are live on YouTube.
Laura, did you see Chris's chat message?
No, thank you. Let's see.
Laura?
Chris, is that you?
Yes, that is me. Did you
All
merge
right.
my account so quickly? Oh, look, I have a halo. Hopefully that is not a sign that COVID is taking me.
The pearly gates are right behind you.
You look like an angel.
What in the world?
I don't see the halo. Wait a minute. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
Oh,
Chris, I'm not
Good evening.
seeing an option to merge
merge
you.
me?
Yeah.
Well,
that's
if
weird.
I'm just hanging on there, that's okay. I know people have done that.
I'll
in the
just
past, but-
rename. Yeah, no, that it should be an option. I'm just not seeing. I'll just rename this. There you go. There's just two of you now.
Okay, great.
Laura, it looks like you
Two
are.
feeds, and I'll be able to.
I'm sorry, Chris. My apologies. Laura, it does look like you are live on YouTube. I will push you live to the site in 10 minutes, and for now, I'll just dip out. But feel free to call or text or email me if should you need anything. Does that sound like a plan?
Okay. Yep. Sounds good. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, good evening, all from lovely San Diego. And when I say lovely San Diego, I mean my hotel room, which is where I've been.
Well, how is it going? Are you feeling well or recovering?
You know, today I feel much better than I did the previous 2.5 days. So, so that's good. The unfortunate part is my wife and son got out of here as quickly as they could so that they wouldn't be exposed to me. And then got home and proceeded to get sick themselves.
Oh,
And now I'm not there, as I'm starting to come out of it to help them as they're dealing with it all. So in some ways, it couldn't have worked out worse. So
Sorry.
oh yeah, it could have. I was at respiratory therapy
you're
today,
right.
and there was a fellow that had COVID, and he's got some problems.
Yeah, no, you're right. It could be way worse.
Yep.
From a logistical perspective, we couldn't have worked it out any worse, I should say. How about that?
Yeah.
So, and it was rainy and cloudy till today, really. So, made it easier to stay in my room.
Isn't there a song about doesn't rain in Southern California?
When it pours, man, it pours.
Good catch. Good catch.
You know, I spent 10 days during the holidays in California, in Huntington Beach and in San Diego. Of the 10 days, 8 days, it just poured. Rain, rain, rain. 2 days of sun. It was, it was like, but But you're talking about COVID, it's crazy. Everybody's getting it, even the people that are, my sister-in-law got it in Canada, then my brother got it, my mother got it, and my mother just recovered a few days ago. My father is 90 years old, living with my mother, obviously, but, you know, knock on wood, he didn't get it. Blood O type. My mother-in-law now got it here in Denver, so it's like mass immunization by God.
Yes.
It's too bad.
Well, I never felt completely like down for the count. But it was, you know, it was like a really good cold or a somewhat mild flu.
So does your son have it again? I thought he already had it, Chris.
Well, we're waiting on his test results. I suppose there's just a really coincidental chance he could have gotten something else completely like the flu. The timing would be so remarkable. But you never know.
Yep.
He is completely hoarse. He can't really hardly even speak. So
I've heard of several reinfections by people who had it, been vaccinated, boosted, got it again.
I read an article by one lady who had it around Thanksgiving, and they're convinced it was Delta, and then just after Christmas, caught it again when they're convinced it's Omicron. Now, I have no idea if that passes the science part of this, but you know, if getting Delta doesn't really help you out from catching Omicron, but if that were true, it would explain my son. But who knows?
Oh, I'm
Actually,
pretty
there
sure.
are studies coming out around, you know, people are getting that they've got COVID, now they're susceptible to other viruses and diseases that they were not as prone to get it.
Oh, really?
You're talking about hepatitis or whatever else. So there are going to be a lot of studies that are going to be ongoing to see how that will. I hope that's not the case, but
Yeah, you'd hope that it would make you stronger for a variety of things, but interesting.
Then my wife, who's in the
Funny
middle of this whole thing for 2 years, has never gotten it. At least not that we know.
you know, it's interesting, you know, knock on wood again, my father did not get it. My father-in-law did not get it. They're both type O blood. That's the only thing that they have in common, and they were just right next to the people that were super infected. So
I think she's A pause.
that doesn't, I guess. But doctors are supposed to be immune to everything, right? People sneeze on them all day.
They get so much stuff. Yeah, I guess they have great immune systems. It's part of the application of medical school. You have to have a strong immune system.
Is that where you get your great immunity, Mayor, from being married to a doctor? Is that what it is?
I used to get sick all the time, and I haven't been sick for, it was a cold for 2 years probably, so 3 years.
I got all my immunity from the girls when they went to daycare from the age of 2 until 5. I think I was more sick then than I can ever remember.
Oh, when my boys were young, boy, yeah, I got sick all the time. They were virus sponges.
Germ swap meet at school.
All right, I think we already have everybody on, so that's great. We'll wait until 6:30 to start. Should be a pretty brief agenda.
Russell, Katie, and Mike. So I actually rebooked my flight to Thursday morning. I called United to clear up this whole day zero stuff and talked through that with them very clearly. And they said that I'm per CDC guidelines, I'm eligible to fly Thursday. So I actually rebooked my flight, in a desperate attempt to get home to help my family. So I'm flying home Thursday morning. So if we can reschedule our calls till Friday, that would be very helpful.
Sure. I mean, you may be, yeah, just let's see how it goes. You may be so busy on the first day back, you don't have time for us, but we'll see.
I could even do Thursday afternoon too, but Friday would be safer probably.
Okay. You didn't think
I'll
about
send out some invites to you guys.
You didn't think about driving back. I've done that drive.
When we thought that, because my wife and son also got tested when I did, if my wife would have also tested positive, then we would have rented a car and gone back. So
16 hours, right? That's what it is.
yeah, we would not have done it straight. I promise you that.
You can stop in St. George's. It's a nice place to spend a night.
That's right.
And we are live on the website now. So when 6:30 hits, we're ready to go. And I just realized I didn't take the Pledge of Allegiance off the agenda.
Yeah, I was going
We got to get back used to the Zoom way of doing things here.
Since we don't have a flag and don't have the proper decorum, I think I'll pass on the Pledge of Allegiance.
Right. Yep.
And I don't have Katie's video on if she's.
I'm here. I'll be there in just a second.
Okay. All right, I have 6:30, so I will call to order the meeting of the Cherry Hills Village City Council for Tuesday, January 18th, 2022. And I believe, can you, Laura, can you do a roll call of members, please?
Yes. Councillor Safavi,
Here.
Councillor Wheel,
Happy to be here.
Councillor Brown,
Here.
Councillor Gallagher,
Here.
Councillor Sheldon is absent, Councillor Blum.
Here.
Thank you. So just Councillor Sheldon is absent. We do have a quorum. We'll go ahead and I will pass over the Pledge of Allegiance since we're on Zoom. And Laura, did anybody sign up for audience participation?
Nope, we have no one signed up, but we do have Gary Palmer from Coffin Associates to talk to the council.
Okay. And then nobody from the City Board of Commissions.
Right.
All right, then I'll move on to agenda item 6, consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Before I even had a chance to ask if anybody wanted anything removed, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Unfinished business. This is resolution.
Sorry, Mayor, to interrupt, can we do have Gary for the police chief recruitment process here to,
Oh, yeah.
oh, do we? Did he
Mayor.
go away?
Mayor, I was kind of hoping we could count that as a committee kind of report so
Sure.
that he doesn't necessarily have to stick around forever.
Let's do that. That's a great idea. Let's get Gary on right now.
He disappeared though.
Where'd he go?
I don't know. Never mind.
Well, when he comes back on.
When he comes back, we'll interrupt and put him on.
He's having internet connection issues and he will follow up with Chris tomorrow.
Okay.
All right.
So he apologizes. We can move on.
Let's do resolution
on here
4 then,
earlier.
series 2022, amending the policy for electronic participation in city council, board, commission, and committee meetings. And this is you, Laura. You have the floor.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor Stewart, members of City Council. And we are presenting at council's direction some amendments to our city policies to allow for electronic meetings without an emergency declaration. In order to do this, we reviewed the current rules of procedure and our electronic participation policy, which was passed in November 2020. And based on that review, we've determined that no amendments to the rules of procedure are needed to make this update, but we would suggest amendments to the electronic participation policy just to remove that emergency declaration requirement part of it and allow for electronic participation. In certain situations, the city council or the city manager determines that meeting in person is not practical or prudent due to public health orders and regulations or lack of a quorum due to members in quarantine or isolation for COVID-19. So that's the main change that we're proposing here, and happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from council for Laura? Councilor Blum?
No.
Katie, Councilor Wheel, did you raise your hand?
Yeah, a couple minor ones. In the well, let's see, it'd be page 2 of the city council policy for electronic participation is on. We're specific about quarantine or isolation for COVID-19. And the question crossed my mind, whether we want to be broader than that. COVID-19 is now, and it's happening and it's real, but there could be other crises, and so I didn't know if we wanted, if it was really our intent to limit it to COVID-19. I've got a couple other little ones, but as well. On scope, which would be Roman numeral 2, we talk about including study sessions, but we don't mention executive sessions. And yet later on, we refer to that bottom of page 2, executive session. So maybe in the parenthetical comment, first line of scope, we may want to add executive study sessions and executive sessions.
Executive sessions can only be called pursuant to a regular or special meeting. So they're kind of, they fall within that umbrella. And then we just called it out because of the logistical issues.
Okay, I didn't want to kind of exclude it.
Yeah.
Because we enumerated, but that's a thought. Then on the top of page 3 of 7 in the next attachment, rules of procedure, we say the motion shall be approved by a 2/3 majority of the council members present on roll call. 2/3 or greater, perhaps. I mean, I think I realize I'm being pedantic, but if we say 2/3 and it's 100%, it isn't 2/3. So we might want to change that to say greater than 2/3 or greater. And I think those are all the comments I had.
Okay, any change to the rules of procedure would have to be a different resolution we would bring back at a future council meeting, but we can certainly look at that particular.
Okay. It's actually a 2-step process because for the rules, you have to receive it in writing, a meeting in advance. And then, so.
Well, again, I think we all know what it means, but it doesn't quite say, I think, what we want it to say. What do we do?
Well, we could, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Or we can go forward and put it on make these changes and put it and bring it up again.
Yeah, we could either bring it up as a single change, or we can kind of save it the way we do housekeeping zone code amendments and wait till we have some other changes to the rules to bring them all back together, either way.
Okay. As long as we address it one way or the other is fine.
Let's put it on the list and we can talk about it. Any other comments from council members? I have one thought. On the top of page 2, I suppose the city council or the city manager determines that a meeting in person is not practical. I don't know. I think a lot of other places we have the mayor or the city manager, because I'm not sure how the city council as an entity would decide that a meeting is impractical. So they'd have to vote. I don't know how that would work. So I just noticed that. We might want to put that on, add it to the things, add it to Randy's changes too.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
I could, go ahead, Laura.
I was just going to say, logistically, that change we can do tonight because we're just addressing the electronic participation policy tonight with this resolution.
Yeah, and Mayor, I take your point. I mean, that could happen prospectively if it happened at a meeting. It just couldn't happen
Right.
when you weren't at a meeting in the middle of the emergency.
And that's
So
probably when you're going to find out. It's probably going to be between meetings, and obviously the city manager could probably take care of it. But I would
Yes.
suggest that we might just change the mayor or the city manager just in case to give.
Or you could say city council, mayor, or city manager. That
Yep.
way,
Yep.
yeah.
I guess I'm fine with any of that as long as it's specific to COVID-19. What I don't really want to create is a situation where, where people don't feel a commitment to attend the meetings. And therefore there's no quorum, and then they all have to be done electronically. And I don't think that virtual meetings are the way we should conduct our business as a general rule. And I think the meetings are important and people should feel obligated to attend, and not that they can just not attend and participate online.
If I can add to that, I think the idea, if you're going to move the COVID-19, then, you're going to say pandemic, as assigned by CDC. You're going to have something but then even if you do that, then, you might have a pandemic in a state and not another one, and the CDC might not even be aware of it or, up to date. So anyway, I no matter how I look at this, I feel like we just gotta, at this point, leave it as COVID-19, or we're gonna open up a can of worms and need a lot of explanation. So that's all.
Well, we can do that. What I was thinking was not so much anything about, making meetings personal attendance, optional, but more like, what if there was a fire in the building? What if there was a flood? What if, there's a variety of different types of crises beyond COVID-19 that could cause us to need to make a decision to go virtual. And that was really the thought crossing my mind.
If I could just add, the electronic participation is helpful for things like COVID-19. But in other cases of fire, flood, whether elsewhere in the building, you could post a meeting notice of some other location and go there. And that's one of the reasons why this is constrained to COVID-19.
Okay.
And to build on that, I think the idea was in general, if we needed to make an emergency declaration for a community-wide flood or something along those lines and needed to have a virtual meeting because of an emergency like that, we have the emergency declaration option. I think the policy intent, Councilor Wheel, is that we want to limit our ability to call a virtual meeting, which is clearly not what the charter and the code really intend for the way business to be conducted. And so it really would be limited in scope in a predictable way that the public would have some indication of why, so that it was as transparent as possible and it didn't appear to be as willy-nilly. That's all.
That's fine.
Willy-nilly being the official term used in the charter,
Right.
by the way.
No, I mean, it's not a big deal. I just didn't want to have to go back and revisit if there were other options, but I can understand the thinking. So let me withdraw that comment.
All right, unless there are other comments, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve Resolution 4, Series 2022, amending the policy for electronic participation in City Council, Board, Commission, and Committee meetings.
Second.
Did we want to make any amendment to add mayor to the
I
section?
could go either way. I don't need to make that amendment, but if somebody else wanted to, I'd be fine with that. I don't think it matters.
You want to do council or mayor, or council or just mayor?
I think council or mayor. I think Kathy had a good point that sometimes the whole council can do it, like we did it this time. Sometimes it may be. I think I think it's not going to have a big effect because I think the city manager is always going to be able to step in. So I think the council, mayor, and city manager. If
I would,
any one of the three determines that, they can do.
I would offer to amend the motion to include manager and mayor.
Second.
All right, we have an amendment. Let's vote on any questions now. We'll vote on the amendment to the main motion. All in favor?
I,
Aye. All right, now we're back to the main motion. We have a main motion as amended. And any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the main motion as amended?
Aye.
Laura, aren't all votes supposed to be by roll call on electronic participation?
Yes, you are correct.
Oh, I'm
Sorry,
sorry.
let me do.
Yeah,
Go
sorry
back.
to interrupt, but
No, yeah, good point.
it's actually right in front of me.
Since we're doing this one. So let me go back to the amended motion. First, Counselor Safavi,
Yes.
Counselor Wheel,
Yes.
Counselor Brown,
Yes.
Counselor Gallagher,
yes.
Counselor Blum.
Yes.
Okay, and now to the main motion. Counselor Safavi,
Yes.
Counselor Wheel,
Yes.
Counselor Brown,
Yes.
Counselor Gallagher,
Yes.
Counselor Blum.
Yes.
That passes. Thank you, everybody. We will now recess our regular city council meeting and move into the meeting of the Charlevoix Park Third Filing General Improvement District, correct? The time is now 6:44. So a call to order. Could I have a roll call, Laura?
Board Member Safavi,
Here.
Board Member Wheel,
He's muted.
You're muted.
Yeah, there we go. Happy to be here.
Board Member Brown,
Here.
Chair Stewart,
Here.
Board Member Gallagher,
Here.
Board Member Sheldon is absent, Board Member Blum.
Here.
All right, we have a consent agenda for approval of the minutes of January 4th.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. All in favor?
I'll do a roll call again,
Oh, this is a roll call? Okay.
just because of Zoom.
Oh, Zoom.
Board Member Safavi,
Yes.
Board Member Wheel,
Yes.
Board Member Brown,
Yes.
Chair Stewart,
Yes.
Board Member Gallagher,
Yes.
Board Member Blum.
Yes.
All right, there being no unfinished business or new business, we will adjourn the meeting of the Cherry Hill Village Charlevoix Park Third Filing General Improvement District at 6:45 and reconvene into the meeting of the Cherry Hill Village City Council. Reports, I'll have a brief report, Mayor's report. On the 12th, we went to the Mayor's Munch, Littleton hosted at Angelo's Tavern. It was actually an interesting place. It's a Carboy Winery, which is one of the biggest wineries in bottling wine in Colorado. It's really interesting out there on Santa Fe by the Breckenridge Brewery. He hosted. We have two new mayors. And that was Mayor of Littleton is Kyle Schlachter, and then the Mayor of Inglewood is Othaniel Sierra. And they've both been experienced. They've both been on council before. So we have new there. The discussion at the time was, we had a lot of discussion about the undergrounding about CML and the undergrounding of utilities and the effort of CML to bring forward legislation amending the anti-competitive bidding language and deleting that from the statute. So we talked about that, and we have that. We have some language that CML, the General Counsel of CML has written and that we're going to go forward with, and those mayors are ecstatic. They really are all behind it as well. So talked about that, and talked about Littleton had a new city manager, or they're looking for a new city manager. Their city manager retired, so they're looking as well. And of course, I think everybody else is pretty well set. On the 14th, our city manager missed it, but I was there for the Arapahoe County Commissioners, Mayors, and Managers meeting. It was by Zoom. A lot of discussion about the future of the public health service and what Arapahoe County is going to do, and Adams County and Douglas, and Probably discussion looks like Aurora ultimately wants to become a county and have its own, because it can't have three separate entities in public health service. It's likely that Tri-County will probably hang around for a while and serve in the same kind of capacity, but as a maybe contractor kind of thing, as a nonprofit perhaps. They're not really sure. They're looking at all options. We had a long report also from Tri-County about COVID and what they're seeing. There was a long discussion because the mayor of Centennial brought up some statistics and some graphs and charts showing the experience of Adams, Arapahoe, and Douglas County before the mask mandate and after the mask mandate. And when Douglas County did not adopt the mask mandate, but Adams, Arapahoe did. And if you look at the graphs, it looks like the mask mandate in Douglas County had no effect, or Douglas, in other words, the experience of all three counties was the same, despite the mask mandate, being in effect in Adams, Arapahoe, and not in Douglas. So a lot of discussion about that. Kind of a consensus that masks work, obviously, but maybe mandates don't, or as much as people thought, because they don't follow them and they don't use the right masks, and who knows. But anyway, it was an interesting kind of discussion, and I think there's also a discussion that Omicron is a different virus now, and they're seeing different, even though everybody's getting it, they're not seeing the severity of symptoms. And so Swedish, I know, for example, that Swedish, their numbers are not as high, are leveling off and even declining now, even though the number of positives tests is really going up. So a lot of people are getting it, but they're not as sick. So that has some implications for policy too, and mandates and schools and everything else. That's it. That's my report. Otherwise, not too much happened since our last meeting. Other reports then. Councilmember Blum.
Yes, I don't have a report, but I have two items for Jay. One is I want to thank Jay for getting the stoplight sync corrected at the Glenmore stoplight for both people coming in out of Glenmore and the other side. And the second question for Jay is, have we made any progress on getting the new speed limit sign on Bellevue?
Yes, so I've been contacting vendors. I think I've chosen one. We'll get that sign ordered here this week, probably. I've talked to CDOT. They will walk me through the permit process. We'll be required to do the install and maintenance. They won't have anything to do with that sign. And so we will work with them on placement of that sign and where it makes sense to put that up. So that should be in the next few weeks. I don't know how far out they are on those signs right now. Hopefully they're not a few months out and just a few weeks. So I've been continuing to move that forward.
Jay, thank you. No report.
Just a comment on the trail signs. The city's doing an outstanding job on kind of modifying trail signs using Fred's measurements, and it's much more usable, and in terms of practically getting from point to point, it's a much better communication. So good work to the people behind that effort. I think, Jay, is that mainly Emily?
That's Emily and Jeff. I will pass that on to them.
Yep, thank you. End of report.
All right, Councilor Brown.
Nothing to report.
Councilor Wheel.
You're mute.
There we go. I owe Jay an update on the HOA meeting to discuss Bellevue and the median. That now appears to be scheduled for January 27th. It'll be via Zoom. That hasn't gone out to the whole population of homeowners, but I'm having pretty good authority. That's when they're planning to have it. Otherwise, Dr. Cog board meeting tomorrow night, but no news beyond that. That's all I have. Thanks.
Councilor Savabi.
No report.
City manager and staff.
Yeah, I'm actually, if we could, I believe that Gary is back on. Is that correct?
Can you guys see me?
With Coffee
Yeah, there you go.
Associates? Yes. I think now would be a great time if the mayor finds that okay for Gary to introduce himself and maybe provide an overview of a little background about him and the firm, and then an overview about where we're going from here on out.
Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. Thanks, Chris. Like you, I'm sitting in a hotel room. So anyway, a little bit about me. I'm executive recruiter with Coffin Associates. We are a Berkeley-based firm. My office is in Atlanta. I started my career in law enforcement as a police officer in Northern Virginia back in 1992. Wound up leaving that, going to college, going back in the military, and then wound up back in local government and spent the last 25 years in local government. I was the city manager for a pretty good sized city outside of Atlanta for the past 4 years. So I wound up pivoting out of that after we got out of the pandemic and wound up doing the recruitment. Always liked doing that part of the job when I was a city manager. So it was a natural transition for me. Have gone through the recruitment evolutions with several police chiefs and was really excited when I saw this recruitment. Had some conversations with Chris, and fortunately we were able to work out a deal, and now I'm working for you guys on this recruitment. Had some conversations with some of the stakeholders that Chris and Catherine gave me the names of, and had some good conversations. Talked to a couple of council members, and I will be following up, I think, with a few more after today, but just a little bit about the firm. Coffin Associates has been around since 1984. We only do public sector recruiting. We only work with cities, special districts, and just government agencies. So all of our recruiters are, the executive recruiters are former city officials and have extensive experience in recruiting. This recruitment's actually live right now, so we are actively recruiting. The process usually takes about 5 weeks for us to go out, for me to actively source, to proactively talk to good candidates, to reach into my networks and the other team members to reach into their networks. And the intent is to go out and proactively bring you a group of good qualified candidates for the city to select and move forward for 2 sets of interviews, one semifinalist pool, which I'll work with the city staff on narrowing that down. From there, we'll have the semifinalist interviews, probably virtually. And I think we'll go from there, have panel interviews with the city for the semifinalists, and then panel interviews from that selection into finalist interviews. We'll also have a panel probably of some local chiefs and some departments, other folks that are trusted advisors to the city. I'll be working with Chris on that. And then we'll be making a recommendation. Chris will be making a recommendation to the city council on a selection. And I'm looking at the schedule on one screen. So I'll have all of the semifinalist recommendations to Chris by the week of February 21st. We have March 7th slated for the semifinalist pool interviews with the panel with the city. And then the finalist panelist interviews, panel interviews are the week of March 28th. These are tentative, of course, based on what's going on at that time, but these are the dates that we want to try to adhere to with an estimated start date of not later than May. Again, I've had some good conversations with some of the city staff. I talked to the chief today, had great conversations with the chief and some of the council members. And I guess I'll just open it up for questions to you all. That'd probably be best.
One quick addition onto what Gary had to say. We do have the community panel finalized just for council's benefit. We do have Councilor Safavi and Mayor Stewart as the 2 council representatives. And then we have for the 3 community members, Jen Diffendahl, who's done a lot of great volunteer work, worked very closely with the department and with the chief. We also have Bill Lucas, who's the planning and zoning chair, representing sort of a community-wide interest, if you will. And then we have
Mark Griffin.
Yes. I'm chalking all those up to COVID, every single one of those where I have a mental block. Mark Griffin, who, as we all know, is the head of the foundation. So that seems like a great profile for really hearing from a wide variety of folks from the community. So that's coming into, or that has come into shape as well. So the whole process in general is moving along very well. One of the things that we really liked about Gary and his approach was a lot of the stakeholder work that he's doing now while the interviews are coming in, trying to really get a feel for more than just what it says on the paper from community members, from council members, from key stakeholders about what the real needs are and what it means to be a good fit. When we sat through a lot of the police recruitment firm interviews, everybody talks about, we can all make sure that they have the qualifications, but our firm is going to bring to the table somebody who's a real good fit. Gary was the one, I think, who had a lot of the specifics of how he was going to go about that. And so, I'm really glad that A, we're on schedule, but B, that a lot of this good work is going on behind the scenes.
And quite honestly, we've got some hard shoes to fill. Chief's leaving a good legacy. She's very well liked, everybody I've talked to, and it's going to be tough, but I'm going to do my best to find you the best leader I possibly can.
Questions for Gary? Councilor Blum?
No questions. Sorry, I was muted.
Okay, Councilor Gallagher?
No questions. I met with Gary today, and I think we've got the right guy on board.
Thank you.
Councilor Brown?
No questions. Thanks for your hard work.
Councilor Wheel?
How is it going so far?
Right now, last time I checked, which was a couple days ago, we had 13 qualified candidates in the pool. Got some out-of-state candidates. Before I became into this job, I've got a lot of folks that I know that are in law enforcement that I was in the military with that are kind of at that command level right now in some departments. So I've got a lot of people kind of working for me and bringing me some good candidates. I want to bring a good slate of talent to this city, so you guys have a good diverse set of choices. But it's going very well. For me, a good metric is, if we launch a recruitment and once we get it published on the job sites, if we're getting traction a week later, I know it's a good recruitment, and you guys have a lot to market. I think we had 13 within a week and a half. So that to me is a good metric. You guys have a great thing going on there. And I think it's something easily marketable to the right person.
Great to hear. Thanks.
Councilor Safavi, I know you met with Gary too, right?
Yeah, we had a good conversation. I agree with the counselor that Gary is the right person to find us. And I think the only comment that I made to Gary was find us the Chiefs cloned replicate. So,
I'm gonna try.
Not gonna be easy, but find us the replicate.
I think that's probably unanimous, Gary, if you thoughts from council. So, all right. Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate your time. Appreciate and working with us. And we look forward to, I'm really glad we're on time, and I'm glad we're getting good candidates. So this is, let's see what we can do. This is a really important position for the city, and means a lot. That's what we're really all about, is providing safety and protection to our citizens. That's the first role we have. So appreciate it.
Thanks, Mayor. I just want to leave you with that I understand the importance and the nature of this position. So I know that going into this. So thank you. Thanks for having me.
That's great. Okay. All right. Any other comments or reports from staff? Mr. Kramer?
Yeah, I'm gonna actually let the directors go first, if that's all right. And I'm just gonna call on you guys, since we don't physically be able to look at each other to see who's where. So Jessica, do you mind kicking us off?
Sure. As council knows, we got the final rule for ARPA funding on the 6th. So staff is in the middle of reviewing the guidelines. Some guidelines were changed significantly, making what you can use the funding on more strict, and others were opened up. The parameters were widely opened up. So we're actually looking at how that looks for the city, and if that can still be spent on the things that we would like to spend, maybe cell service, that kind of thing. So we're in the process of reviewing that right now, and we'll keep council updated as we go through that process. We closed the court clerk. Oh, sorry.
Jessica, real quick on that, on the ARPA funding, it's my understanding that one of the things that they took away from, and not that we would have a ton, but a lot of the infrastructure expenditures that were likely everyone thought that were going to be in there before are no longer in there, or at least are much more diminished. Can you just talk about that for a few seconds?
I can speak a little to that. So if you had infrastructure projects that you started under the ARPA funds previously, if they were allowed under the previous reading of the ARPA funds, you can still finish those projects out. Most of those were roads and those type of things. Those are no longer part of eligible projects. It does appear that we will have, we can do some work on broadband, middle mile, end mile. We met with HR Green before the final ruling came out and talked to them, and we'll be contacting them again. There's talks of a possible Arapahoe County forum coming together on broadband, where we can all try to work together on those middle miles and end miles and save some funds. And also we're hoping to be able to work through how to that, what exactly can we do in broadband under those rules as a group. So then we have a better idea of what we can do as a city. The other things that did become eligible, although a lot of infrastructure became ineligible, stormwater is a big push. So we may be able to mold that into some of our stormwater projects, especially like the Highline Canal stormwater. So, but we'll continue to work on those and get some more information, especially about the broadband and stormwater issues.
I think the idea from DC was that they had also passed the new infrastructure bill, so they didn't want to double up infrastructure. So they took a lot of that out of the ARPA in hopes that would then be distributed through the infrastructure bill itself, including to local jurisdictions, perhaps. So I know it's left a lot of jurisdictions scrambling, though, who were already gearing up for their ARPA funding to use for roads, so especially. So in some ways, we're a little bit better off than some others. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead. Back to you, Jessica.
No, that's okay. We closed the court clerk position on Friday. We had 10 applicants, so we're bringing 6 back for interviewing next week. So hopefully we'll find some good candidates there. And the last update I have is we scheduled the audit. It'll be the week of March 21st. So it's always a fun time doing the audit. So
sympathies.
Do the auditors ever ask to meet with the council members?
not since I've been finance director, they haven't. We actually did the last couple virtually. Okay. So I'm assuming we'll do this one virtually as well. But we've only had one in-person audit since I've taken over.
All right, next, other department.
Real quick update. We kicked off the 285 corridor congestion study about a month ago. The consultant has started doing some data collection, existing conditions. They will now be reaching out to stakeholders. Staff has started to work with them. So all or some of the counselor members may be contacted by them to talk about their wants and needs in that corridor. Staff has been talking to boards and commissions to let them know what's coming up and giving the consultant some names. So who they can contact, and then we'll also contact them so they understand what it's about. They'll be talking to some of our staff. There will be public outreach meetings coming up that we will get out on the web and all of our electronic media that that residents can come to and ask questions and learn about the study. So that will keep moving forward. So if you get a call about that, be sure to tell them what you think, what you want. It's a very wide open scope right now. Each community that's involved wants something a little different. And so they're keeping that in mind as they put this master plan together for us. We have the recruitment open for Ralph's position, the right-of-way manager position. We're going to keep that open for a little longer. Right now, we've got about 6 applicants that we've got on that job. So we will keep looking for Ralph's replacement, hopefully with some overlap before he leaves. So that's all I have tonight.
I think if anybody gets a call about Hamden, the 2 things that always come up are speeding and also synchronizing the light at Carr Boulevard in Hamden. That's under control of Denver now, and boy, we get a lot of complaints about that. So those are the 2 issues I hear about.
I just want to let council know that the public affairs consultant has begun the polling of residents, surveying through phone and text, and that continues.
Chief?
I have no report tonight. Thank you.
All right. So I have a few things. Again, I'm sure most everybody is aware, but just in case somebody listening who might not be aware, our illustrious finance director has provided her notice. And the good news is, while we will never be able to replace Jessica Sager, she has given us plenty of time and plenty of notice so that we have an opportunity to bring somebody on board. She's not, her last day is not scheduled to be until late May. Is that right? Late May. So hopefully we can bring somebody on board, and there might even be a little overlap there so that she can help train her potential replacement. And, you know, I hear that at this time of year, Iowa, which is where she's scheduled to move to, is just not very fun place to be. So I'm still hopeful that maybe a trip out there will dissuade her and make her see the light that really is just nicer here in Colorado. But nonetheless, so that process, we will be starting that shortly. And there'll be plenty of chances, obviously, for us to let Jessica know everything she's done for this organization and this community. So the next thing I want to talk about, and we've talked about this briefly a couple of times, but I did want to give a little bit more of a thorough update tonight. That earlier this year, in 2022, actually, I think the state received 95% of the required threshold on the signatures from communities for the settlement for the MOUs for the opioid settlement. And so as a result of that, I think Colorado is set to receive like $385 million when they're finalized sometime this year. And so there is a joint framework structured in the MOUs between the Department of Law and all the counties, municipalities, and towns. And that we agreed to that framework even if we haven't filed the lawsuit. So most of the opioid settlement proceeds go directly to these regional collaboratives and to the local governments. As a result of all of that, obviously we've talked about possibly, having our share of that opioid, since we have no programs in place, no way to really invest those in the limited ways that we're allowed to really allow this regional or this county collaborative to really do that work for us. The great news about that is that the county, Arapahoe County, is taking the hard lead on this. And I think everybody, even those folks, even those jurisdictions that are much bigger and that might have homeless programs or things like that are probably going to be working with the same regional collaborative as well. So we just got an email this week about their efforts to start those meetings here in the next 3 to 4 weeks. So expect to hear a lot more about that than we have been hearing shortly. Council we had a brief discussion last time about closing of City Hall and things like that related to COVID. I did have a chance to reach out to some other jurisdictions. It sounds like Littleton is the only one who closed City Hall. Let me rephrase that. They are not calling it that they're closing City Hall. City Hall is still open to the public, but you have to make an appointment. So far, we have not had to close City Hall or do a modified opening like Littleton has. We've been able to, ours is going to be primarily driven by staffing, what staff are available. It's a model I think that the schools are dealing with right now. I don't think it makes that much of a difference how many students are out. It really makes a difference on how many teachers are available. So, so far so good, but again, stay tuned. It does seem like, to Councilor Savabi's point, everybody's getting it. And if we get to be bare bones at a staffing perspective, we may have to do a modified opening or an internet opening. Again, my hope is that we would only do that almost on a day-by-day basis and not have it be an ongoing, indeterminate amount of time. The state of the canal, the first ever state of the Highline Canal, is next week. They had originally intended for that to be a in-person gathering, kind of a celebration almost. Obviously, because of Omicron, they have switched that to a virtual. It's on Wednesday afternoon. If you have not received an invitation and want to attend, let us know. We can have Josh with the collaborative get you an invite. Also, the Citizens Advisory Task Force for the master plan is meeting this Thursday. The real intent of that meeting is to begin to review the next, we're really pivoting into the next phase of the master plan, which is going to be starting to lay out some of the goals and some of the direction. So it's going to be a chance at the next community open house, which is scheduled late February, to start testing some of those ideas with the community, and the CAT meeting on Thursday is going to check in on some of those approaches. So again, that's proceeding great. And I'm really glad that despite all the COVID craziness, there's a real commitment by the P&Z and the CAT to keep things moving along. And I think that's very encouraging. So in my last update is myself. Obviously, I had originally told all of you I was going to be back on Friday. Now I'm going to be back on Thursday. Obviously, I'll be in the air in the morning, but I will be available after that Thursday afternoon and Friday. So that's the only update I have.
Chris, did you want to check in about the retreat?
And actually, and next week's meeting, yes. So thank you for that reminder, Laura. She normally is able to elbow me, and that was the virtual elbow right there. So we had at the last council meeting, we had discussed that we would check in again, though, on the council retreat on February 1st and the council meeting that night, just to check council's temperature on your desires on those in person or virtual. So I sort of opened the floor. Oh, I guess I don't get to open the floor. Mr. Mayor, if you could.
No, you could. That's exactly right. Anybody have any comments? My reaction is I'd like to be, I said I'd like to have the retreat in person. I think it would be more useful, even if we had to continue it. Right now, it's just hard to say. This was supposed to be the highest peak week of hospitalizations, and it's supposed to go down after this. So we'll see. I mean, I'm open to meeting, but obviously, I think Councilor Wheel, you need to I'd like your thoughts and thoughts of other council members as well.
I would.
Mayor Stewart, were you on the trike? Go ahead.
Sure. I would suggest that we meet in person, and if we have to push it out, push it out.
Yeah.
Mayor Stewart, did you hear the call from Tri-County this afternoon?
I did not. I missed that.
So they echoed some of your statements that the modeling that they're doing does suggest that late last week or early this week is the peak, and that they are expecting numbers, both mostly the most important one being hospitalizations, to start going down. So just as context.
Yep.
Just one point, peak or no peak, even if you get to the last 10% of the part of the curve, if somebody's weak or susceptible and they have not got COVID and they're not protected, it really doesn't matter at that point. They can still have a chance to get it. So I'm all, whatever the council decides in person or on Zoom, I'm fine with either. But I just want to make sure, I don't want us to be fooled that if you're past the peak, we're going to be safe. We're not. So that's all.
I think from my perspective, I think like several, I much prefer an in-person get together than virtual. I think we'll just lose an element of the dialogue. Part of it too depends on where we meet and, ventilation and other things that are there precautions we can take and put in place to make sure that the air is circulating and those sorts of things. But yeah, I have a bias toward personal and in person, and at the same time, if we have to delay, then I suppose we have to delay. I wouldn't want to do something really risky, but I think we can mitigate some of the risks as well.
Then what I would propose, Mayor Stewart, is that we keep it tentatively in person, both the retreat and then the meeting on the 1st, and that at the Thursday Mayor Pro Tem meeting next week, that the three of us maybe give Councilor Wheel a call, and we can just have a chat about that, just to confirm that feels right. And in between now and then, staff could do a little discussion about things we can do to spread we had originally talked about council chambers, but spreading that room out, maybe that we can prop some doors open and get some cross ventilation going, et cetera. The good news about council chambers is we do have all those doors on the side there. So we'll also have a better idea about the weather next Thursday as well. So that's what I would propose, Mr. Mayor Stewart.
Can I propose something else as well? Right now, when I go to in-meeting person, and there might be 15 or 20 people flying around the world, we basically give everybody their own little test that they do at the hotel or wherever, either that day or the day before, and they all come in with their little stick that shows it's negative. That's one way to be able to protect everybody. But again, that is assuming everybody will be able to do that the right way. And then the second thing is that during that time, nobody picked it up, that the test cannot pick it up. So still there's some risk. That's all. Back to you.
Well, tests are free now, so we could always have folks take a test.
I think that's a good point. And, N95 masks do work. So that's the other thing. But, all right. I think we have a direction, and let's see how this is going and see what our options are. And we'll talk about it, let council know.
So just to be clear, when we do the packet next Wednesday, we'll advertise it as an in-person meeting. And then if we need to amend it to be a Zoom, we'll do that later.
We would likely delay the retreat, but we would probably do the council meeting virtual. What I think I heard council say.
Hearing no objection, let's do that and make that decision. All right. And then we can check everybody's calendars for a new retreat date that's not too far away, and we can do that in person as well. All right. City Attorney.
I have two small items just to update council. It's sad to be virtual, but it's nice to see your faces for a change. So to update you, I think the mayor's article in the Crier a month or two ago mentioned a case about term limits and how that might apply to it. The issues are twofold. This involved the mayor of the city of Thornton, whether or not the body, the term limits that applied to the body also applied to the office of mayor. And oversimplifying here. And also whether or not the amount of time the mayor serves counted as a partial or full term. So the mayor was correct. Thornton did appeal, and the plaintiff in that case, Salazar, cross appealed. CML amicus committee voted to put the might of CML behind the position of the city of Thornton. I don't know, Mayor, has the board met on that yet?
No, our board meeting is next week, so we have not seen it yet.
Okay, so that's still forthcoming, whether or not there'll be CML support on that, but that's going to be of wide interest and deep interest across the state. So I wanted to put that on your radar screens. And also of interest was a recent Colorado Court of Appeals decision that came out of Larimer County. And I don't want to misstate this, but it involves campaign contributions. And this is a case called, whoops, pull it up here. No Laporte, and it, I thought I had it up here. Anyway, it involved the, it says basically that campaign contributions can potentially, depending on the amount and the timing of campaign contributions, disqualify a council person from, well, in that case, it was a county commissioner, but disqualify an elected official from deliberating in a quasi-judicial matter as a conflict of interest. So there's due process clause implications. It's a pretty involved analysis that the court went through, but it's just something you should be aware of. I think there'll be a lot of talk about that. If you have any questions, feel free to follow up with me after. Thank you.
Okay. Next on our agenda, unless there's something else, the next is an executive session, and I don't know if someone has the text of a motion to proceed into executive session. Katie, do you have one?
I have it up on your screen if you can see it.
Oh yeah, there you go. I'll entertain a motion to proceed.
I think Katie's
you're
on mute.
muted.
You're muted, Katie.
Done. I got through almost the whole thing. Too. All right. I move to go into executive session pursuant to section 24-6-4024B and 24-6-4024E, Colorado Revised Statutes, to receive legal advice pertaining to inquiries from retailers concerning the collection, reporting, and remittance of sales tax on taxable sales, instructing negotiators regarding agreements addressing those inquiries, and to receive legal advice regarding communications with remote retailers regarding the remittance of sale tax, and upon concluding, to immediately adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second. We need a roll call, please, Laura.
Counselor Safavi,
Yes.
Counselor Wheel,
Yes.
Counselor Brown,
Yes.
Counselor Gallagher,
Yes.
Counselor Blum.
Yes.
And if everyone will bear with us, we will figure out this break room.
I am going to attempt to put everybody in a break room, so it should automatically transfer you when I do that.
Coffee and soft drinks?
Good night, everyone.
Bye, Chief. Thank you.